This is the first video in the video series about King Yama or Yamraj, the Japanese, Korean and Indian or Hindu god of death. He is the spirit presented in many pantheons. His origins are Vedic, or not necessarily Vedic, but he is part of Indian mythology. And from India he spread to the rest of the world. He is known as Lord of the Dead, Lord of the Dharma, and the judge of the people who died. He is the king of the underworld as well as the form of the Grim Reaper. I called Yam Raj once, using methodology and techniques channeled by V.K. Jahanam. But in future videos I will present a technique and technology to summon Yamraj. But in the first video of this series I want to talk about a really important thing, which is the general consequences of working with the energies of death and energies of the dead. Now I need to give a disclaimer, and I also need to give elaboration that energies of death and energies of the dead are not the same thing. Energies of death are, how I can say, the energies which bring upon death, while the energies of the dead are the energies of the people who died. And in this video we will talk about both of those energies and what is the difference between the two. So technically speaking, energies of death are mostly Saturnian in nature. They are, from my experience, black and dark purple, while the energies of the dead people, aka necromantic energies, are usually gray and dark green. Energies of death are good for opening of psychic abilities and ending of the life really quickly, while energies of the dead are good for attracting money and attracting protection, but they are also poisoning in a sense that when you work with them you will kind of get poisoned by that energy really quickly, and you will kind of start to rot from within. Now, how to prevent this is you call one of the underworld authorities to give you a cloak of protection, so you can work with the energies of the dead without any hindrance. I will teach you that in the next video, but for now we will talk about how to prepare for working with the dead. So, how I do this is I simply call the associated deity I work with regarding necromancy, and what I do is I ask the deity to empower me, and after I stack that empowerment for about 10 days, then I go and approach the spirits of the dead, and that way I have good protection and I have good spiritual body to engage with the dead without actually being weakened. It is also possible for the necromancer to work with the dead without being poisoned or weakened, but severe alchemical transformation is necessary. Now, how I did it is I made a pact with Daibog, the Slavic lord of the dead, to empower me with his energy, and he did exactly that, and from that point on I can work with the dead without being poisoned or weakened or whatever. But technically speaking, what you should do is you should first choose a deity for the current of death. Then you should work with the deity to empower you for 10 days. And after that empowerment, you should go to the graveyard and then use psychic vampirism techniques to feed off death energy, and you will do it in the presence of your deity so that your deity can empower you greatly during that operation, and make sure that your energy body is not contaminated by the energy you infuse in. In this series, I will also give necromantic prayers to Yamraj, to Lord Yama, and I will also explain the techniques and technologies necessary for the work with him. Some of those techniques and technologies will be traditional Ionist techniques and technologies. Some other techniques will be simply my own channeled personal knowledge. So, tell me what kind of questions you need answered in this series. But now I will talk about my experience with Yama. So I called Yama twice, and that was a really interesting experience. He was really protective. He was really willing to teach me, but he explained to me that he has a really high standards and that he doesn't want to work with everyone. And in order for me to get his knowledge, I needed to perform serious acts of devotion to him and to his current. In this video series, I will kinda tell you what those acts of devotion were for me, and I will also tell you what you can do to appease him. When I asked him in my conversation how to appease him, he told me that in order to appease him, one needs to accept death as a possibility and dedicate his life to strengthening of his soul and directing all of his or her efforts towards specific path of spiritual realization only Lord Yama can give. And he was really specific that there are certain mysteries which only he can give, and he doesn't tolerate in some instances the presence of other gods while his mysteries are studied. So there will be times in your practice where you will be forced to work only with him and no other spirit in order to master his mysteries. Now, he didn't explain how long that period were or what should be done. He was kinda really cryptic, but he told me that I should kinda work with the current of the dead and merge with them by allowing the dead spirits to feed off me. And he also mentioned some experiments with the human ash I was unaware of. He simply gave me a visions of a human ash and something which needs to be done with that. I am not certain what. So I will in the future give more knowledge about Yama. Here I simply shared my experience and I am announcing a video series. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.